here on this last day of September of 2025. Can you believe tomorrow is already October 1st? Time is flying by. So today we're doing the same day online psychic readings. I realize my microphone audio is not consistent with sometimes with the video that I'm playing, so you might be scrolling to adjust your audio. So I'm going to pay more attention to that. And I'll probably turn the video down and so that my volume is high enough. First, I wanted to today on the show, on the live stream, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. There is so much stuff going on the internet having to do with UFOs, sightings. A lot of them look fake to me, but I'm just so surprised how it's getting so much attention, so many clicks, so many views. And I wonder if every live stream that I do moving forward, if I'm going to go ahead and keep playing at least some sort of background on what's real versus sort of fake aliens. And so that you guys can have that in the forefront of your mind as you are sometimes subliminally, unconsciously looking at these things and going, wow, what, is that real? Is that not real? What the heck is going on here? I think it's important that we have it in our memory, our conscious memory, as we see things going on, so that we, like I say, it's at the forefront of our mind. The other thing I wanted to mention is just a little bit of background on a missing news anchor in Mason City, Iowa, Jody Husentrut, and my connection with that story. This is the first time I've ever talked about it. Way back when I was working for a station in Kansas and a sister station of KIMT where Jody went missing. And they flew me in to replace her during that time. And I noticed that Hulu is doing a docuseries, a 3-part docuseries on it. And admittedly, I haven't been looking at it. It's bringing back a lot of memories around that time. And so it's just a little bit sensitive. But I did want to sort of share the pros and cons of being connected with a story like that sadly has not had a good ending even 30 years later. It's hard to believe. But first, let's begin with taking a look at what the sale on same day sale is all about. Here we go.
Are you curious if you're on the right path? Your soul's calling? The message or meaning behind a dream? Do you have questions about love and relationships, work, health, money, how to just stay afloat in this wonderful, wacky world? Just ask. Anytime you see this red same-day session button on ghostwhispernetwork.com during one of my live streams, you can get a reading the same day. Subscribe to GWN if you haven't already to get the best value for under $1 a minute. Then log on to ghostwhispernetwork.com to choose the length of time best for you. As soon as your order processes, we'll confirm the next available time to connect that day. See you soon.
So first up, I wanted to give a little bit of background on the Jody Husentrut news anchor from Mason City, Iowa that went missing. Here, take a look at what Hulu is now saying is a new lead in that case. And this is the trailer. If you have Hulu, you can watch it. This is the trailer from the new documentary. There have been many on the Jody Husentrut case over the years, but this is the most recent. Take a look at Hulu's.
Car keys laying on the ground, red high-heel shoes. You can see drag marks. We've got a problem.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to Daybreak. I'm Jody Husentrut.
Less than 24 hours after it aired, she would vanish.
KIMT news anchor Jody Husentrut was just 27.
Abducted. There's a show called Gone at Dawn. It's on 2020.
The 2020 show. That's why I reached out to Mason City Police. My information just fit in there too much. You know that burning gut feeling that you get? I couldn't let it go.
Now police have new leads that could mean finally finding her killer.
She told me she thought someone was following her.
Was this person a stalker? Was it a crazed fan? Time to get this done. It's time to get this case solved.
It's just awful that this happened. You know, where is she?
We were the only ones given access to join the search and film it.
I had a bad feeling.
Gives me chills just to think about it.
I just couldn't believe my eyes.
Holy crap. This is really real.
I don't care what it takes.
Maybe this is it. Maybe we're gonna find her now.
Let's find Jody.
Her last broadcast, the abduction of Jody Huisentruit, only on Hulu.
So I want to take you back to that time. It was in the mid-90s. I was a few years older than Jody Huisentruit, and I was working for a sister station in Kansas at the time. And one of the executives brought me into the office and said, "We have a missing anchor in a situation," is how he described it, in Mason City, Iowa, at a sister station that they had owned there at the time. And they said they wanted me to go in and anchor and fill in for her. They mentioned that there was a lot of national media, a lot of national attention. One of the reasons why is because there were clues very early on when she first went missing that leaded to an abduction. Clues like her outside in the parking lot, her blow dryer, her shoes, her keys, and what appeared to be drag marks of feet. She was on her way. She was doing the morning shifts. Anybody who knows anything about television knows that you get there very early in the morning, 3:30, 4 in the morning, to be on sometimes at 5, 5:30. And they sort of did a welfare check. I wanted to give a little context and look back so you can see more of the details and the feeling. These are real people that I worked with when I flew to Mason City, Iowa. Brian, Robin were the main anchors at the time. Amy was a morning producer. There were a lot of people who were dealing with their own shock, obviously, when this thing happened. Here is more of a personal, closer look back then. This is a piece done by 48 Hours, which when I got there at the time, we're on the scene doing a documentary on this very story. And they have since in recent years done that. And I'm going to explain coming up why that's so critical that the story be kept in the headlines. Because as soon as the sort of newness and the leads and any new information wears off and it's not in the headlines, it's not in people's public awareness. And that is a mitigating factor in the whole thing. Let's take a look back. Compliments of 48 Hours.
You are watching News Channel 3 Daybreak. The time is 6 o'clock, 64 degrees, some light showers falling in North Iowa.
Jody grew up in Minnesota. Then she went to Mason City in 1993 to become reporter, morning anchor.
This morning, our morning anchor, 27-year-old Jody Huisentruit, apparently disappeared.
She was running late. It appeared that Jody had been attacked from behind and then dragged away from her car, and her stuff was scattered behind.
I called her and I talked to her. She was there. It sounded like I woke her up. Her first question was, "What time is it?" I said, "Jody, it's 10 after 4. You need to come in."
That was the last contact anybody has had with Jody.
It's been 38 hours now since anyone has spoken to Jody Huisentruit.
Good evening, everyone.
I had such a strange collision of emotions.
Residents from all across North Iowa are in turn feeling the emotion and the desperation for Jody's safe return.
And I thought, I know her so well, and all of these folks who are watching on TV right now feel like they really know her too. They had her in their home every morning, and they loved her.
Way to go, Kevin.
She has a hard last name, Huisentruit. After the 27th of June, she's Jody. Doesn't need a last name anymore. She'll always be just Jody.
The clock was ticking.
I'm John Shine from KIMT Television, Mason City, Iowa. We need your help. One of our news anchors is missing.
It's been 42 hours since we last heard from our dear friend Jody.
There are lots and lots of theories.
How would you classify John Van Sice?
I would classify him as a friend.
Jody spent more time with John Van Sice in the last month that she was in Mason City than anybody that we know of. And he said, I was the last person to see her.
I interviewed him the next day.
Have the police indicated whether or not you're a suspect?
No, they haven't given me any indication. They've interviewed me twice, but they haven't given me any indication I'm a suspect.
So there have been a lot of suspects over the year. That John Van Sice has since passed away. He was said to be in her social circle and a lot older than she was. He was interviewed, like he said, there a few times. He passed a polygraph, and one of the reasons why Hulu decided they were going to start to do another documentary is because they claimed that there was a new lead. And in cases like this, quite often, there is such overwhelming public and personal and corporate even attention given to trying to solve a case like this that, you know, a lead, especially in the early stages, the first few days when Jody Huisentruit went missing and the first weeks to follow, anything was considered a lead. Oftentimes, particularly when it's involving such a tragic story like this, you know, there's this tendency to really try and come up with answers. And really, that's what we saw happening in the beginning. Where the story started to hit me hard, because I've covered them so many over the years, but this one, obviously, when I'm walking into the same building just feet from where she was abducted, had an effect on me, is when I could see the signs of it sort of slipping from public interest. In the case initially back then in 1995, they were having press conferences every day and briefing the media and really the world and the country on what progress or not that they were making. And then as time went on, in the weeks following her disappearance, those press conferences were fewer and further between. And I knew what that meant. I meant that we were not getting closer, and any leads or suspects that investigators, including the FBI at the time, may be sort of waning. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to put this out there is because media often reminds people, even as many as 3 decades later, about incidents, clues, something that happened, and putting the story out there again, even though it might be a low to medium level lead, really does put it in the forefront for people who might remember back then. And as it would happen, ABC did a show on a segment on the Jody Huisentruit disappearance, abduction. And as it happened, the ex-wife of a man that also lived in Mason City, Iowa at the time, who is now, years later, presumed to be a serial killer and in jail for the homicide of in a different case, a different woman. She was watching the show and she said she just could not ignore her gut feeling, right? Gut feelings. And so she contacted the Mason City Police Department, and there's an investigator now who is linking this because of, and he's not giving details for a reason, because when you put the details out there, when you do get a suspect in custody for questioning, if there were more than if it's already public how, for instance, human remains were disposed of, only the suspect would know that, and only investigators would know that. And this particular investigator, the name of the husband is Chris Revac, and you'll start to see why this is getting the attention that it is. This is Compliments of Care, Channel 11 in Minneapolis. Take a look.
Chris Revac had a girlfriend that was living in Mason City in 1995, which is exactly the same year that Jody Huisentruit went missing.
It's not the first documentary on Jody, but it reignites a story that's never stopped leaving its mark. Caroline believes in keeping an open mind, determined to see this case close one day and see Jody's family find resolution.
Jody's family most of all needs it, but I think the rest of us need it as well.
You know, and I think she makes a really good point, because especially in the initial stages and the immediate years to follow, it really became personal for someone like that, for journalists that were following the story, people that were doing in-depth series on the story. It became really personal. And so when this sort of Chris Revac came up and an investigator said, you know, in what they were learning about his MO with other cases, he said that might explain why there have never been any human remains found in the Jody Huisentruit case. And here's more on that and how this whole potential lead led to a new docuseries on the Jody Huisentruit case. Take a watch. Oops. Oops, that's the wrong story, obviously. So let me go back to, it's called Gone at Dawn. That was the 2020 series done 3 years ago, which really sparked that wife and what that last piece referred to as the girlfriend, and made them want to look a little bit deeper. One of the reasons why I really wanted to put this out there is because although they did do a search based on the Chris Revac, what they hoped to be more of a solid lead, they never did find human remains. And that was a little bit disappointing. When I heard that, my heart sunk again. With the advancements of DNA, a case like this could turn to finding those critical answers. And I was disappointed to hear that they hadn't found anything. However, just an update on Chris Revac. He has since committed suicide in jail, and but I suspect if he was probably involved in another homicide case with another woman and he was a prime suspect, they probably do have his DNA. So if any human remains are found from here forward, there's a good possibility the case may be solved. Now, if he's passed, certainly for family and friends and everyone who was involved in this case over the years, it'd be highly disappointing if there weren't location, details, and things like that happening. It's really something to watch this thing over the years, and have it sort of be part of, what can be one of those situations where you just never know. A tragedy can happen. These kinds of things happen. And before you know it, you have a national case like this 30 years later, which is still considered unsolved, But anyways, so I want to give you the quick, if anyone's watching or you're passing it on or sharing or it comes up in conversation or anything, Mason City, Iowa Police Department, the non-emergency number is 641-421-3650. 641-421-3650. They're always looking for tips. They, at one time, they had dozens of suspects, and now this one investigator is keeping a close eye because of how Chris Revac, he says, would dispose of remains. So that could explain why Jody Huisentruit's body has yet to be found. All right, switching gears to something else. If you spend just even a fraction of your time on social media, you too may have been noticing a lot of these really kind of like looking like sci-fi UFO stories that are out there. And I want to remind everyone, certainly what the X-Files contributor to that show, who worked for the FBI, now retired John D'Souza, says about that, to give us a reminder, but I also wanted to give you a visual of some of the things that we're seeing and compare it to current technology that is not multidimensional, alien-like. It sort of discounts all of these really high profile, going viral, the last UFO that was seen. And so this is the one that I tripped over, and I thought, wow, like, this reminds me of, you might remember the case Lights Over Phoenix, because this looks very similar. This looks very similar to that. I'll keep my opinion about Lights Over Phoenix to myself, but you might not be too surprised to know what I'll say about this next piece. Watch this. Oops, did I not have it? Oh, it's right there. Okay, here it is. Like my green screen. Watch this UFO. Now this looks very similar to the case where the Lights Over Phoenix, with this huge, what appears to be some sort of a spacecraft, not familiar to current technology. To me, that's a hologram. It's very clear that's a hologram. and like, I wish people would just, and I think they are. I think people are sort of asking questions more often now. So they're just not sort of like believing the first thing that they see. I mean, it looks like a sci-fi Star Trek. Now, because holograms and the technology behind holograms have gotten to be so good, it wouldn't be unusual to see something like that. And like, it sounds like a man's reaction going, whoa, what is that? Let me remind you, in China, they have commercials with holograms that are really quite common. So when you see some examples of these holograms, these are quite fascinating, but then it makes you look at it with a good perspective. So first we have the panda bears. Here, I'll turn this music down. We have the panda bears, and that looks very real. And that's on a well-known street corner in China where you can see people are taking pictures. Now watch this one. Look at the snake. And look at how it changes. And, that's quite common. So these holograms are really impressive. And we have to keep in mind, just as people are, and look at this man puts his hand out. And look at the shadows. See the shadow it's casting? That's how real they're making them look. But these are not real. These are not real. These are holograms. And it's important to have that discerning eye. I might just play all this stuff, for the months and weeks to come, because my word, I mean, this is like, this is going to go on forever. These anomalies, and then the clickbait and getting everybody to like your video, especially on TikTok. I notice there's a lot of people who are spreading this stuff, and they're talking about, what is it, Atlas, or the names of them. I want to remind you that the experts, some of which who have really put their neck out in spreading information about exactly what's going on with what we're seeing in the skies, like John D'Souza, former FBI agent, who what I consider to be a whistleblower. No one really likes that term, but I consider his work and his contribution to what we're seeing in the skies now as very helpful. One of the things, I'll refresh your memory, that he's said in the past, you guys, is, he believes the fake alien event that has been in the works for many, many years, the damage will be very real. In other words, like the fires that we're seeing, directed energy weapons, the devastation that the fake alien invasion will impose on things on the ground will be very real. But the aliens in the aircraft will be holographic in nature and not real. And he, in no uncertain terms, continues to be interviewed and talked about it. In this particular piece, He's talking with Clayton Morris from Redacted. The Redacted, Clayton Morris used to be on Fox News until until they didn't want us to report the truth anymore. And and I giggle because it's just, who would have thunk, Anyways, so he was interviewed by Clayton Morris on this very issue, which is like those weather balloons and those drones being shot down. Are they really aliens? And when somebody comes out with a statement saying, you know what, we got all those aliens, we shot them down, John D'Souza saying, no, that's not what's happening. And I want to be clear for those of you who I work with one-on-one, particularly when it comes to non-public, sort of clandestine information. You know very well that it's not we're talking about interdimensional beings when we're talking about, quote, aliens or extraterrestrials. They're interdimensional. They're not intergalactic. They're not physical like you and I here in third density. They just are not. They don't present that way. They don't act that way. They don't look that way. Anyone with a I remember, well, I could get into a lot of stories. Anyways, when you stand beside something that's not real, you don't have to be a high intuitive to figure out it's not real. Like, something is not real about this. But and it's really quite jarring. But anyways, there are very specific characteristics of aliens. Of course, there's lots of different species. I'm of the opinion there's a lot of different species. They present in many different ways. Rendlesham is an American U.S. base on British soil where there is video. Good luck finding it. I searched forever. I couldn't find it. I have seen it. I have reviewed it, and I have studied it and investigated it. But, and that was clearly interdimensional alien beings. They were light. They were glowing light. They, as John D'Souza will explain in this next little bit, they are shape-shifting. They have the ability to shapeshift. As you know, in my docuseries, for those of you who watched, true aliens can only spend a short amount of time. When they drop down into third density, they can't spend a lot of time. And they also have dematerializing trans properties is what we refer to it as. So a little bit like, the best way I can describe it, the way it looks, is a little bit like Star Trek. You know, when they'd be on, what was it called, the bridge, and they were like, beam me up, Scotty. That's what it looks like. And it's called shifting trans properties. So dematerializing is another phrase that we use in the community when we're talking about stuff like that. So, but just rest assured, if it looks like, like that ship over Walmart, how John D'Souza wants us to know for sure the difference.
Alien visitor way that we are. They are just not physical. And that's something I first learned from the FBI in a document that was handed to me as soon as I got into the FBI as what we call a control file. And it was the bullet, the magic bullet, which is a document. The magic bullet is a document that I show in my book, The Extra Dimensionals. It's a government document showing an FBI agent who had an informant, and he says in there that the FBI, that the informant was an alien visitor, and he says that gave him about 8 conclusions about, and this was at the time of Roswell, when everyone was going nuts and trying to ascertain what are all these UFOs. Apparently there was a huge worldwide wave of UFOs across the planet at this time. So this FBI agent happened to be a scientist himself, and he actually sent out this document to the world, and it said basically, he gave 8 conclusions. Alien visitors and UFOs are not physical. They are not physical. They are from another dimension. They are from another dimension of reality, and they can kind of manifest physically here for short periods of time. And the same is true of the UFOs that come with them. And he also said they are here for peaceful purposes. We shouldn't attack them ever. If we do, it will go very, very badly for us. And we saw exactly that happen in 1952 over Washington D.C., when a bunch of UFOs came in over the most protected airspace in the world, and our entire Air Force was sent out after them for the last time. It's the last time any Western nation did that, and until now. And the reason it was the last time is because those over 14 days, we saw in the report that came out after that in 1952, we saw that those UFOs just embarrassed all of our military jets and did circles around them, did over-unders, and for 14 days they just humiliated our Air Force and could very easily have destroyed them. Very easily. And they didn't. They didn't. They just hung around for 14 days for some reason. I don't know why. And they buzzed all over the Capitol and everywhere. And those appeared to be genuine UFOs at that time. But because they had those abilities to be filled with light, to be shifting trend properties, and so forth. And so these are the things that we need to look at so that we can tell when the government is lying to us, when they say things like, yeah, we just shot down a bunch of UFOs. We just shot down. We're not going to show you any of the materials. We're not going to show you anything or tell you anything about it. But yeah, just trust us that we shot down. Real UFOs cannot be shot down. We saw that in the Battle of Los Angeles, when the entire California coast was militarized against Japanese Zeros. And we had all this munitions out there. And then a couple of very large UFOs came sailing in, and they shot everything they had up at it. All they did was kill about 4 or 5 civilians on the ground. Most of the munitions just passed gently through the UFOs. And then we had cameras that were taking pictures every second, every half second there. And after all the smoke cleared, you saw 2 giant UFOs very happily sailing away, undamaged from this occurrence. Those were genuine UFOs because they had that ability to dematerialize, to have these qualities that only genuine UFOs can have. UAPs don't have that.
I like the way he says two happily floating away, like, is that how can you tell if a UFO or UAE is happily floating away? But his point is that if they were malevolent and not benevolent, they could have easily done something, just like in my docuseries, Join the Journey, ET Contact, and Human Evolution. It's very clear that whichever higher intelligence species is monitoring nuclear activity and the nuclear warheads knows ahead of time when something's about to be lodged, and it was disabling them at Maelstrom Air Force Base. I mean, it doesn't get any, certified. That's not me saying it. Take a look at Maelstrom in Montana, and that's what the heck was happening there. But anyways, be very careful, because ever since they repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, and back in 2012, and basically any propaganda can be put out there. And one of the challenges is that we were, what is that saying? You tell 99 truths to be able to pass by that one lie. So many generations since the beginning of free press, free speech, and the onslaught of media in our culture, is we relied on the Walter Cronkites. We relied on the investigators that said, but you know what? We have contrary testimony. Like, we can't ignore that. And, we fought hard for it. We protected our sources, and we stood firm. I thankfully came up with some real, true journalists, far better than what my work was. I mean, I did some good work, but I mean, like, they did not take no for an answer. They would literally, just like investigators were, they would camp out outside of people's buildings and homes, and they'd knock on their doors. And I mean, we all did, but I mean, they really paid a heavy price to do that. And now to have just all of this real nonsense flying all over the place is really something to see. It's heartbreaking, because I know people have been raised and reared on expecting, if it's in print or even if it's typed, I noticed, they think it's gospel truth. Well, not now. I mean, look what's happening with all that crazy stuff. All right. So I thank you so much, you guys. I can see your notifications coming in. So, and I'll be I'll be taking appointments until midnight tonight. So just FYI, Eastern Standard Time, just so you guys know. So if you're watching this, in the evening or after you get home from work, feel free to reach out. There is something I wanted to play, which has come up, I would say, fairly regularly in sessions. If you're one of those people that I have questioned about this particular subject of Ouija boards or spirit boards, you no doubt have got an earful from me about it. One of the reasons why you train and you work with other people is you're literally getting their ability to be able to protect you in the work, right? There's a reason why Scripture talks about not pursuing this. And so if you haven't been opened up to an extrasensory ability, whether it's through minor surgery, whether it's through a serious head injury, whether it's through drug use, early trauma, whatever that is, if you once the cat is out of the bag, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and all these cliches, hey? And so there's a very good reason why Scripture cautions people not to venture in. We've had a couple of incidents in Colombia, and here's an example why. Now, the media I was in their shoes, so I guess I would have maybe nervously laughed uncomfortably. I mean, I don't think I would, but you see the media trying to make light of this, as they're talking about dozens of kids that were sent to the hospital because they were playing with a Ouija board. And it's really something. I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. And for those of you who've gotten sort of an earful from me about it, you know darn well that deliverance in itself is sometimes a process that doesn't just take one session. It might take, in some cases, a very long time. Take a watch of this.
28 girls hospitalized after playing with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia.
Hey, you remember it, don't you? The girls had signs of an anxiety attack. The school's apparently waiting for a diagnosis before providing further information here. But it is worth noting that one mom said her kids always have a good breakfast and the fainting was not due to a lack of food. This isn't the first time this has happened in a Colombian school. Back in November, 11 teenagers collapsed after using a Ouija board at another school in Colombia. It was later reported that at least 5 of them had suffered from food poisoning. There, I will do it to you.
Maybe just don't use Ouija boards.
Yeah.
On a different note, a board game sold on Amazon, the online shopping giant, claims to let people communicate with God. But as one exorcist warns, it is extremely dangerous and could lead to the exact opposite outcome. The so-called Holy Spirit board is similar to a Ouija board, but it is advertised as a Christian religious talking board and comes complete with a so-called magic cross to spell out messages and displays artwork of the crucifixion, angels, and a dove.
So another misconception I notice, and I may have mentioned to you one-on-one, is many people just sort of discount it. Oh, that was when I was in grade school, or we were just having fun, Sophia. It was no big deal. No. That's not the way it works. Many times, not rarely, but many times, there are uninvited things. Energies, darts, pricklies, that are part of the snare, the trap that tries to come in the back door that's not welcome. And so for those of you who I work with one-on-one and have had the pleasure of sitting down with or even just reading, I inevitably there might be some point where I might pause and might say, do you mind if I just, have a quick word with myself, or let's say a prayer, or let's, through the power of the precious blood of Jesus Christ, protect us from the wicked snares of the devil. Any unwanted guests, leave now. You're not welcome. We are enveloped with the divine energy of the Holy Spirit. The reason why we do that is, many layers to it. But basically, we're reminding ourselves that our aura, our spiritual being, our soul needs to be protected above all else. On this subject, if anybody even says that they've even dabbled in it, played with it, we even have issues of where to throw it out, because when I sit down with somebody or when I meet you, I can sense stuff like that. So I'm like, how long ago was it that you were doing that? And, and don't just like put it by the trash, or don't burn it, for goodness sakes, like people. But anyways, on that thing, there's a reason why scripture warns people to, hi Arvada, I'm not sure who that is. And also Ireland. I'm very curious about who from Dublin is watching. There's a lot of stuff flying around, and people are just, of course, they're just going through their own for their own sensibilities. They're relying on their own sensibilities. We all do, of course. But these are not light subjects. That is not a light subject. That is not something that needs to be taken lightly, including paraphernalia, stuff from an ex-roommate, an ex-partner, spouse, whatever. There's paraphernalia in the basement. Well, yeah, you know what? It's not gone. It carries energy with it. And that needs to be treated with the kind of caution that I know you guys know. I work with many of you who are now, thankfully, really paying attention to this stuff. You're not just going, yeah, well, even used furniture. I have to say through the years, it could be some of the nicest furniture, but at a secondhand shop or whatever that you find, or a rummage sale, I'm always leery of that, because I just, anyways, you guys get the point. I found now I want to get into stuff that's more positive. I found a really incredibly beautiful, what I think is beautiful piece of video. I mean, social media, for all of its craziness and all the crap that we see out there, when you see something that just makes you go, oh, I just treasure it. I'll play it over and over. I'll save it. I'll send it to myself. I'll take a look at it again. And there is this really neat guy. I think it was Twitter that I found it. Who records the sounds of things. And apparently, whomever follows him said, could you record the sound of a plant when it's being watered? And I thought, before I clicked play, I was trying to guess, because obviously I specialize in frequencies and vibration. I was trying to guess, like, what the heck would it sound like? You guys are not going to believe this. This is one of my favorite pieces of video I've ever found. Okay, watch. Oh, that's not it. Oh, that bugs me. That's not it. Okay, you guys, I have to find it. So because I set it up so well that I have to put it. I have to put it in there now. Wait, I have to find it. That's a little piece with a dog that I was going to play towards the end. Wait. Let me find it. That dog, by the way, he goes to his owner. I will play it because it's so cute as well too. But that dog goes to his owner and tries to get his owner to put on these wings that move on their own. They pretend like they fly. And okay, hang on a second. I want to find the beautiful plant drinking water thing. And then the dog sees whoopsies, did I pick the wrong? Then the dog sees his reflection in the mirror, and then he goes back, and then you'll see in the background, there's a program with either fairies or something flying around. Let me find the plant drinking water thing. And then he catches himself, and then he starts to twirl. He sees himself, and he starts to twirl. Okay, hang on. I gotta show you the plant thing. Oops, wait. I gotta show you the plant thing. Okay. The sound is just beautiful. All right. Oh, I'm messing up my green screen here. Hang on. Hang on. The plant watering thing. Whoopsies. Oh, no, not that one. Not that one. Sorry, you guys. I'm just totally messing it up, aren't I? So here's the plant watering thing. Okay, watch.
So many of you have been asking, what does it sound like when you water your plant? Well, I was just watering my plants at home, and this snake plant is ready for some water. I have the plant wave connected, and we have this sound set. It's playing piano and some other things, electric piano. Let's see what happens when I water the plant. Let's listen. Let's give it a little more. Give it a nice soak.
Isn't that fascinating? How beautiful is that? Oh my word. And all of the pretty high notes. It's the little things, you guys, that get me excited. Okay, so now the dog wings thing. Okay, let me do this one.
So many of you have been asking, what does it sound like when you water?
Okay, he's like, Dad, can you put on these wings for me, please? Look how sweet. Look at her eyes. She's pointing with her paw. She wants the wings. Okay, watch this, you guys. See yourself? Okay, watch. She'll go to the TV. Those are some kind of fairies or something. Look, watch. She's enamored with herself. Okay, watch. She starts to twirl now. This is so precious. Look! Look! Oh my word. It doesn't get much better than that. So friggin' cute. You know? Like the prescience ability of our second density friends is just lovely to watch. It's just beautiful to watch. All right, everyone. I know everything is just a little left of center out there, but remember to try and keep yourself as centered as possible. Really be aware during the course of a day and a course of a week, of course, as we're heading into October, just how many anomalies, how much effort is trying to rock you off your center. And then just like with, having the awareness of something coming in the back door, like when we were talking about the Ouija board and spirit boards and whatnot, be very aware of your surroundings energetically. Like everybody does it physically, of course, when they see sort of a driver, like, if there's sort of road rage or if people are, kind of getting snippy with each other out in public. Everyone is a little bit aware. They sort of like, have their attention up, and do that with your energy as well. Be very aware that there is a tremendous amount of what I call static, energetic static in the world that really wants to throw you off your center. And our job is to hold that still point with our aura, with our center, with our soul, grounded, but flexible to the higher frequencies and vibrations. And then when things seem to be going a little bit too out of that range, you go ahead and go back into whatever your techniques of practice are that best do that for you. All right, everybody. Have a good Tuesday, and we're going to see you later tonight. All right, everyone, take care. Bye for now.